Welcome back to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show. And you're listening to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show. Once again, we're here on episode number 6 with Jana Dunford. And we're going to be continuing on here with her. And she's got more to tell us. And we're going to sit here and listen to her tell her story. And she's a great guest. She just tells the story. I don't have to do too much. I get to be lazy. Sometimes I get to be lazy. Sometimes I have to really work. This time I get to be kind of lazy and just, tell me the story. This here. All right, Jana, continue on.
So I just wanted to finish up my time in high school. And I don't want this to be really like chronological day by day kind of thing, just to highlight certain things that were memorable during that time. And one of the things was that I worked at McDonald's. I worked there for 2 years, and I decided not to work at the McDonald's closest to our house, just because I knew that I was going to end up seeing so many of the kids from high school, and I didn't want them to see me there because at school I was very quiet and I didn't say a whole lot at school. But I knew that I couldn't be that way if I was at work with a whole bunch of people. And so I just didn't want to be around high school friends. And so I went and I worked at the Centerville, Farmington. I forgot. I think it's Centerville McDonald's. And I worked really hard there, and long hours, very, very long hours, and lots of cigarette smoke. That was before they had the ban on cigarette smoke in the buildings in Utah.
Kids today don't get that. They don't go, what?
Yeah.
You used to be able to smoke in restaurants? Yes.
Yeah.
You used to be able to smoke in restaurants. You used to be eating your food, and a guy in the booth next to you was smoking his cigar or cigarette or whatever. And restaurants were all smoke-filled.
Yeah, it was miserable.
Yeah, it was horrible.
And our break room was full of smoke all the time. Ugh. So I came home smelling like French fries, hamburgers, and cigarette smoke every single time.
Ooh, cigar, nicotine, grease, hamburger. Ooh. That's a nasty combination.
I worked on they always put me on the counter and in drive-thru. And I think it's because I always had this chirpy, happy voice. Hi, welcome to McDonald's. Can I get your order today? And I could do that for hours. And so they would keep me there all the time. And it was a long time working. If I'm going to tell this story when I get to my college time, but so I worked there, and then also in my junior year of high school, I tried out for 4 different things. I tried out for the drill team, the track team, the school play, and the choir, and I didn't make any of them. And my dad, when he heard that I didn't even make the choir, he felt really bad about that and felt so sorry, because when he was in high school, he was the choir president and he was all into choir. And how can my daughter not make choir? I don't know, honestly. It's just, but I did come across in high school as very shy and quiet, keeping to myself. So, and no, I didn't have a very super strong self-esteem. So I'm pretty sure that I came across as pretty flimsy person.
That you would crack in front of an audience.
Yes, that's right. So no, and I didn't make it into the choir. We also had an amazing choir director at our high school, and I'm pretty sure he picked those kids that were, really strong, confident singers. And even though I could sing well, I didn't have confidence. So I'm not sure exactly why I didn't make it, but I also didn't do band, even though here I am a music person, and I took piano lessons from the time I was 5 all the way until I was 18, missing the 1 year in Japan, but all the way till I was 18. And so when I got to there, we stopped going to piano lessons with the grouchy teacher, and hooray! Even though she was a good teacher, but she just didn't know how to smile. Anyway, but then I got a new teacher, Mrs. Beckstrand, who was really nice, and I wish that I'd had her as a teacher a lot longer than I did. I only had her my last 2 years of high school, and she was great. And she had me play these wonderful duets with another girl, and then my last year she had me play my own piano recital. So I had to memorize all the music for an entire hour's worth of piano playing, and we invited friends and family to come and listen to that. And that was hard. That was really, really scary for me because even though I played piano ever since I can remember, but the playing in front of people was terrifying for me. And
then for that much time too.
yeah, and to remember all those notes and all the songs, yikes.
Yeah.
It was really scary. And even when I was a little kid and my mom had me stand up and do a piano recital for when she taught piano students, I remember my legs shaking so badly. I thought, I am literally going to fall on the floor because my legs were like noodles. I'm like, they really can't hold me up like this. And so, so even at 18 years old, here I am playing for all these people. And I am just shaking, and I know how to play, and yet, but I did it. I survived.
Stage fright is real. People don't get that, but it is real.
Yeah.
I've watched plenty of people crumble, in over the years of my time in show businesses. A lot of them were their first time out there and in front of people and, talent shows and things like that. And, I'd always try to encourage them. Oh, you got this. Get out there. You're going to be nervous for about the first minute, 30 seconds to a minute. Then all of a sudden it's going to go away. You're going to feel great. And you're just going to punch it. They go out there and do it because that's what it is.
Maybe you should have been right behind me. All those piano recitals. You can do this.
Well, the strange thing about it is every entertainer I've ever worked with, they're nervous before they go out. I don't care how long they've been doing it. They still have that twinge of butterfly before they go out there, because they know, okay, now it's time to really show what I have. And they get that butterfly.
Yeah.
They walk out on stage. They start doing their thing. And within just a 30 seconds, a minute, they own, they still go out and they own the crowd.
Right.
Show business, you got to own the crowd.
Right.
And they go out there and own it. And they walk, within less than a minute, they're back into it and they're feeling great. That's just what it is, folks. That's how all my years in the business, I can tell you all about it. I can tell you the guys that are the most scared and would go out there and do it. And the guys would just walk out there and go, okay, let's do.
Well, I'm still working on that one. I think I have made a lot of progress over the years, but there's still a little piece of me that is that little girl inside that gets really nervous when I have to play the piano in front of people. I'm actually not as nervous to talk. Talking is a lot easier for me to do in front of people. And I think it's because I can see people's faces. I can see their eyes and know if I'm reaching the people or not. But when I'm playing the piano, I have to look at the keys and I can't tell if the people like it or don't like it or if they're bored. I don't know. And so it makes me more nervous because I can't see the people.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I've also noticed over time that large crowds of people make me nervous. Like if I'm at a football stadium or something, all those people is a lot of chaos in my mind. And so it makes me really nervous. And so over the years, I've had to think of ways to calm myself down when I'm in a situation like that with a lot of people and I don't know what's going on. And I've had to say, okay, I've had to look for the order in the chaos. Where is everybody going? How do they walk? Where are they sitting? What is the focus of the meeting or the event or something? Where are the exits? Is there a program? And I have to walk through it in my head so that I don't feel overwhelmed and scared by this, in my mind, uncontrollable situation that seems to be in front of me. So same with like parking lots full of cars that are all jammed and they can't get out. I think, okay, where are the exits? Which way are the cars going? Anyway, this is a mental strategy that I have to run through in my mind. So anyway, talking about music stuff, no, I didn't. I never took band in high school. So my clarinet playing stopped in junior high, even though I did keep my clarinet. And now...
You didn't play clarinet in...
No, I never played it in high school.
High school. Oh, okay.
Which is interesting if you know what happened later in my life. How can I be the music teacher at an elementary when not having a proper music background? But I have a creative mind and all of that piano playing and all the singing in the church choir at church. I mean, it all made a difference to me. And I felt like I have been learning music and chords and things all my life. So to me, music seems pretty easy. And even though I didn't have it in high school. So I just wanted to say a couple more things. One was I had a boyfriend in high school. I have to say, I had crushes on lots of boys, like everybody.
Let me do the high school. Ooh.
Yeah, I like
Okay,
that.
there you go.
But there was this one boy, I have to say, my junior year, the end of my junior year, who was around for a few months. And I have to say, it was not a good situation. And we got into a bit of trouble. And I was not respectful of him. He was not respectful of me. And we were not doing the right things. I'll just leave it at that. And then one day we went, and I have a conscience. And so my conscience was bothered the entire time. I knew it wasn't right. And I knew lying to my parents wasn't right and things like this. One day I went to a family reunion and my little cousins were singing the song, Follow the Prophet. Follow the prophet, follow the prophet, follow the prophet. Don't go astray. And he knows the way. And I listened to them singing this song and I knew I needed help. And I hung on to their words when I went home that day and I called up the bishop and I said, I wanted to talk to you. And I came clean. I came clean and I said, I know I'm not doing the right thing. And this is not a good situation. And so he said to me, okay. And I was truly sorry. I cried. I really meant it. I knew I was wrong. And so he said to me, I want you to fast and pray this week. I want you to pray every single day for forgiveness. And you come back to me on Sunday and you shake my hand. And if God has forgiven you, I want you to tell me I'm okay. That's what you say to me. I said, okay, I'll do it. So that week I fasted and I prayed every single day for forgiveness. Well, it got to be Saturday afternoon. I didn't know if God had forgiven me. I don't know. I didn't know. And I thought, well, I did what the bishop said to do. I don't know if God has forgiven me. I didn't have some big spiritual anything happen to me, but I thought, well, I'm going to have faith that God forgave me because I did what the bishop told me to do. So on Sunday after church, I went up to the bishop and I said, I shook his hand and I said to the bishop, I'm okay. And right when I said that, I had an electric shock in my hand. And I thought, oh, I looked really quick. I looked at his hand as, our hands went apart and to make sure to see if he had a buzzer in his hand. He did not have anything in his hand. His hand was empty. And I knew right then that I had felt the power of God shock my hand. Just like Nephi shocked his brothers. Mm-hmm. And they were scared to even come by him and touch him or anything because they knew God was with him. And I knew right then, being shocked by the power of God, that God knew he knew that I knew what was right. And I knew that if I messed up again, I was going to be in big trouble because he knew that I knew. And I have to say, this was a really important moment in my life because at that moment I committed to going straight for the rest of my life. Before I talked about how the Holy Ghost hit me when I said my prayers at 12 years old, and I committed to saying my prayers for the rest of my life. Even when I was doing the wrong things, I said my prayers every single day. But when I was shocked that one Sunday, I promised myself that I would go straight the rest of my life, that I would never deviate as much as I knew to the right thing. And there have been many times, maybe here married to my husband when, someone wants to flirt with me or whatever. And I'm like, no, I know God knows me and I will be in big trouble if I do not follow through. And so that was a really important moment in my life. And so that's why I want to bring that up. And, that boyfriend knows nothing about that because that week I stopped calling him and I never talked to him ever again. So he probably doesn't know anything about that. But that was really an important thing that happened to me. I also,
it's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for the kids that are listening to it and stuff like that too. I mean, we all are going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes along the way, but the way you fixed it all up and corrected. That's all God wants us to do.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
That's right.
He knows we're going to do wrong. Just fix it.
Right. Well, I want to say, while I was in trouble, one of the things that also pricked my conscience was that I did have a testimony of the gospel. I did know, and I had already, because of being in seminary and reading my scriptures, and I had this feeling. I had been reading in Doctrine and Covenants section 11 one time, and I got this missionary spirit. I'm like, does everybody know that this is true? Everybody's got to know this. Oh my goodness. How can people not know this truth? I've got to tell them. I was 15 then, and I was like, I'm got to go on a mission. And so that also, that was burned into me. I just was like, I got to go. Everyone's got to know this. And so when I was getting into trouble at 17, it kept playing in my head. But you've got to go on a mission. You've got to tell everybody. And that was also another thing that kept at the back of my mind bugging me. And another thing was that before my grandma Sarah died, when I was 14, my dad had asked his mom, so Mom, what advice do you have to give Jana, your granddaughter growing up, right? And she had many grandchildren, and I was only one of the youngest ones. And she said to me, her one advice was, do not get tangled up with any boy. That was her advice. And so when I was getting tangled up, I could hear her voice saying to me, do not get tangled up with any boy. Anyway, I did those were always playing in my head. And so, for grandparents and parents, don't be afraid to say the truth.
Yeah.
Tell your kids the truth, because it will prick their conscience. And it did to me, and it did help me. I would not have admitted it at the time, but now I say yes. You've got to stand up and you've got to tell your kids the truth, even if they are mad at you, but just do it, because who's going to tell them? Who is going to tell your kids the truth? Other people in the world are too nice to tell them. They're not going to say it, but parents have got to stand up, or grandparents got to stand up for the right.
And people at school, including employees and all that other stuff, they'll be glad to tell you what they believe is the truth.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
you have to counteract it. You have to say, this is not acceptable. This is not right. Well, you got to set the boundaries, the rules, what it is. No, I get you. No,
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's it's difficult doing stuff like that. And, and the hard part is, I'm sorry, we're created because guys, well, almost all of us like the girls, and almost all the girls like the guys.
Sure.
So
For sure.
so that's just born into us, because that's how we perpetuate the species.
That's right. That's right. That's right. It's exactly how it goes. But we got to do it in the right order.
Correct.
And as long as you do in the right order, you can live guilt-free and happily, and you have a wonderful family. But you got to stick to the iron rod. You got to hold on to the path and go straight. And that is so important. So important. How much time do we have left?
Almost 9 minutes.
Okay. So I have one more thing to say about high school, and that is coming to terms with my mom and how I came to terms with it. And because it got right down to my graduation from high school. And I was pretty sure that she wanted to give me some gift, for graduating from high school. And she had said she wanted to give me a television to go to college, which I thought was really nice. But I don't watch TV very much. I mean, from the time I, had to grow up there at 14, I really put down all of these things. I didn't read books anymore. I didn't play with toys anymore. I didn't watch TV. I didn't do a lot of those things anymore. I left it in my childhood, and I was busy. I was doing my homework. I was practicing the piano. I was being a responsible teenager. I mean,
and working,
right.
school.
I didn't do that anymore. A lot of times, most of the time I would come home from school. Like I said, I had to pick up all of my brothers and sisters from the elementary and the junior high. And then it was my job to make sure everyone got their jobs done. their chores after school. It was my job because I was the oldest one home. Melanie had gone to college. Roger was usually at basketball practice. And so there were 7 younger than me. And I'm like, all right, guys, get your chores done. Let's go. And I, because where my parents, well, they were at work. They both worked full time to pay for all 10 of us kids to do everything.
You'd have to have full-time jobs plus some part-time.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
And
I can't imagine 10. Ooh.
Kathy was a lawyer and my dad was a professor. So they were very, very busy. So, and if he wasn't being a professor, he was writing books. He wrote books about, foreign countries, Korea and Japan and different places. So that's what he did when he was home in the evenings, was he was writing lots of things. So they were busy. And of course, I don't want to say I was always the one handing out the rules. I wasn't. But after school, that was my job, was to make sure that people got their jobs done. But anyway, I'm just saying that when I got to my graduation, my mom wanted to give me a television. I didn't want it, even though I appreciated the thought. And so I was going to tell her that I didn't want it. But I anticipated that this was going to be a showdown. And so knowing my mom, and so I told myself, whatever happens in this conversation that comes up, I'm not going to be mad anymore. I am going to be her friend no matter what happens. And so that is what happened. I went and I was at my cousin's house and I told her, I thank you for the television, but I don't want it. And she was furious. She was so angry at me, and we got into a wild argument about things. But at the end, she said, well, she had to take me home. And then she said to me, well, I guess you hate me now. And I said, no, I don't. And that was the end of it. I had decided no matter what, I was not going to be angry anymore, and I was going to be your friend. And from that point forward, that's what happened. I felt like our conversations were pleasant, and she was supportive of me at college. And one time she gave me a whole Tupperware plastic container full of things for when you get sick, like cough medicine and Band-Aids and all of these things, which I really needed, and it used that several times. And I so appreciated that. She had gone out of her way to make me a prom dress one time. But anyway, that's what happened. It was that I finally let it go. I just let it go, and I was not angry anymore. I felt sorry. I have always felt sorry, that her decisions have led her away from me, so that she has never really been involved in my life. I mean, here and there, I talk to her once in a while or see her once in a while, but as for being my mom, always in my life, no. But I have not been angry. I felt sorry, but not angry. And so I just wanted to say that I finally did come to terms with it and just let it be. I forgave her, basically. I forgave her and my dad and everybody, I just let it be. And that's how it was. And I was going off to college, and, I was going to have a new chapter in my life. And it's never bothered me ever since, ever.
Good.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you got to get rid of that poison. I call it poison or acid. And that's
bitterness.
It just eats at you. It just eats you. So it's just poison or acid, whatever you want to call it. And it just eats at you. And I've seen so many people just destroyed by being mad, and holding that anger for their entire life.
Yeah.
I could tell you a story about people. Oh my heavens.
Yeah.
They just held on to it and held on to it. It's like, man, just let it go, guys.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that's being destroyed by it is you.
Yeah.
You're the only one that's getting destroyed by it, so let it go. So anyway, folks, we're going to pause right there. We're going to come back in just a minute with episode number 7. We shall be right back. Thank you for listening to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show.